Behold, Simi, life, real life, a thing that we have been denied for far too long. Good morning, my neighbors!
What a day. What a day.
Yesterday was an incredibly jubilant moment for Newcastle supporters, as they were finally freed from the shackles of the ownership of Mike Ashley. An ownership that has lasted for a decade and has been nothing but pure neglection. Of course, what I'm referencing to is the recent takeover of Newcastle United. They were purchased by a consortium that is led by the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. There are other parties involved with this, but it is mainly funded by the Public Investment Fund. But the deal is worth about £300 million. And if you thought that was big, the PIF asset value is around £315 billion. Newcastle have quite literally found the infinite money glitch, but it is said that Newcastle will follow financial fair play. Say what you will about that statement. Now, before I go into the main subject of this video, I just want to state this. I totally understand Newcastle supporters basically partying on their own ground right now. I mean, Mike Ashley has neglected this side for more than a decade. Newcastle under Ashley would basically just see constant mid-table finishes with no sign of improvement ahead. And at its worst, 2 relegations in 2008 and then 2016.
Ain't you had enough punishment for one day?
For many on the Tyne side, the idea of Mike Ashley leaving Newcastle has been a dream they have dreamt every single night.
Every day I wake up!
And to go from a history-rich club to by far the richest club in the world, I mean, I would be celebrating too. I will say though, the chant, "We've got our club back," is just a little bit hilarious because it's much less your club now. And I get that most football supporters do not care about politics. I mean, most of us watch this sport just to escape for a couple hours. But Saudi Arabia's PIF purchasing Newcastle United is terrible for football. Not in the sense of parody, that's for another conversation. Besides, all the memes have been hilarious. I've enjoyed all of them. But football, like many other sports, is a very attractive mean to rebrand a country. As said before, a lot of us watch this sport as just an escape, so any of those shady dealings happening behind the scenes, we don't really notice. And a reformist extremist government right now is taking advantage of that market in order to give the nation a better image. How so? Meet the PIF chairman, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, also known as MBS as we're going to refer him as. He is also heir to the throne as the King of Saudi Arabia. And one thing you need to know about Saudi Arabia is that they are an absolute monarchy, which means supreme authoritarianism that isn't restricted by any written laws or legislator. And as a result, Saudi Arabia frequently abuses human rights. It should be noted that the current government has seen reforms away from the ultra-conservative religious beliefs. They're more liberal and appealing to the West, but they're just as intolerant. According to the CATO Institute's Human Rights Index, Saudi Arabia are ranked 151 out of 162 nations. There's no freedom of speech, women are widely discriminated against, religious discrimination is also very common, human rights organizations themselves are banned. Oh, and you can also be sentenced to death for being a homosexual. So much for rainbow laces. But let's talk more specifically about MBS himself. In 2015, he was behind the Saudi bombing campaign in Yemen, which was also funded by the US and the UK, by the way. This campaign committed numerous violations of international humanitarian law. At least 7,825 civilians were killed, 2,138 of them being children, and this left Yemen in ruins, fighting poverty, cholera, and water scarcity. MBS also represses human rights activists, women's rights activists, journalists, and also insiders with torture, imprisonment, and even killings. The most talked about incident is of course Jamal Khashoggi. He used to be a Saudi Arabian journalist for the family before he fell out of favor. Khashoggi's journalism has always been very critical of MBS and his growing authoritarianism. Khashoggi fearing for his life because in Saudi Arabia, if you speak against any of the royal family, good luck living. He fled to the United States to write for famous news organization The Washington Post. While he was working, MBS and the Saudi government had hired thousands of trolls to harass the journalist while also finding ways to spy on him. Then on October 2nd, 2018, tragedy struck. That day, Khashoggi entered a Saudi consulate in Istanbul to obtain documents for a planned marriage. This is unfortunately where he met his fate. A group of 15 men had assassinated Khashoggi. During this whole situation, the Saudi government had changed their story on multiple occasions. There was once a headline saying he was still alive, and then there was another one a couple of weeks later that said he was strangled in a fistfight. But it was later concluded by the US CIA that MBS had ordered his assassination. If you want to see a specific reason as to why the purchase of Newcastle United by PIF is just to better MBS's image, it's Jamal Khashoggi's death. Since the assassination of Khashoggi, many companies have not wanted to work with the Saudi prince. By buying Newcastle United, a club in one of the most powerful countries in the world, located in a football-mad city with the 8th largest urban area in Britain, with the 8th largest stadium in England, MBS buys legitimacy and credibility on a global scale, especially with the narrative that he's rescued a team that has struggled for over a decade. To conclude, I've seen also a lot of whataboutisms. I get that other club owners are very dodgy. I mean, we literally just saw 12 form the Super League. I don't disagree whatsoever that we need to have more conversations about this, but this is a dictatorial regime that currently owns Newcastle United. The other parties like Amanda Stavely can say whatever they want about how the Saudi state is just a separate entity to Newcastle United, but at the end of the day, this club is not only being funded by oil money, but blood money. But I can't stress this enough. Newcastle fans are not the problem. We can't blame them because in some sense they have been emotionally manipulated. They are merely pawns in this transaction. Who we need to talk about more are the people behind this takeover and also the Premier League. Amanda Stavely once said, "Human rights we take very seriously, but our partner is PIF, not the Saudi state." As stated before, folks, the PIF is chaired by Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, the Prince of Saudi Arabia. And remember last year in May of 2020 when Richard Spencer, the CEO of the Premier League, denied this takeover from happening? Don't think that it was because of any concerns of human rights, because it was about Qatar's geopolitical dispute with Saudi Arabia. And it so happened that Qatari state-owned beIN, rights holders for the Premier League broadcasting, is the highest valued overseas contract and was due to be renewed in December of 2020. But what do you guys think about all this? I'm sure there's a lot to be said about this, so definitely leave it down below. Listen, I reply to comments pretty much on the weekends. I still read your comments during the week, so don't worry, I'm not ignoring anyone. So yeah, just comment down below and you'll get a response from me in like 5 business days. Sorry. But special thanks to our patrons, Lewis, Emmett Shea, Dominic Griffin, Joseph Bonfante, and Tomicus. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below, and there'll also be an annotation for it. You can follow my Twitter for any video updates, follow my Instagram if you want, follow my TikTok, still trying to get to 2,000, and you can follow my Twitch, which is still somehow growing, even though I haven't streamed in like 2 months. But until then, I'll see you guys.